nation has been off to the races now for a week and a half. There's lots of activity. We have a good bit to report, and I'm happy to say that it's largely in the good news category so far. But of course, some of it's concerning as well. So, why don't we go ahead and arm ourselves with the Word of God before we get into it? The scripture of the day today is Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. And this is a familiar passage. As for us, we have all of these great witnesses who encircle us like clouds. So we must let go of every wound that has pierced us and the sin we so easily fall into. Then we will be able to run life's marathon race with passion and determination, for the path has already been marked out before us. We look away from the natural realm and we fasten our gaze onto Jesus, who birthed faith within us and who leads us forward into faith's perfection. His example is this: because his heart was focused on the joy of knowing that you would be his, he endured the agony of the cross and conquered its humiliation, and now sits exalted at the right hand of the throne of God. Isn't that a good word?
Yeah.
We'll only be able to run the marathon of destiny that the Lord's marked out for us if we let go of every wound, no matter how deep or no matter what the circumstances or who the person was that inflicted it. Holding on to the wounds in our life makes us unable to effectively run our race, as does personal sin, because sin causes injury to us and it causes injury to the Lord as well. So, how can we do that? You might say, "You don't know what happened to me. You don't know what I've been through." That's true, but Jesus does. And he suffered more than any of us. And he did it sinlessly, he did it perfectly, and he did it victoriously. So it's our assignment as Christ followers to follow his example by letting go of any right we have to hold on to bitterness, pain, anger, or resentment, and to run forward as forgiven ones in the love of our perfect forerunner who intimately knows our suffering.
Yeah. And he does know it, Danielle. He knows
Yeah,
it often even more than we know it because he knows us better than we know ourselves.
so true.
And, and there's no such thing as qualified forgiveness. Forgiveness
No,
is either unconditional or it's not at all.
yeah,
And by God's grace, we can forgive even the deepest wounds and even the deepest hurts, even as we hope that others forgive us
yeah.
for any hurts that we've caused them, and be able to forgive ourselves. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we can have that victory. And we have to remember we never walk alone. We never walk alone. He's always with us.
He's always with us. And, forgiveness, the beautiful thing about forgiveness is that it lets you leave stuff in the past, if you're holding on to it, it goes with you wherever you are, and you carry that around like an anchor. I think that's
Yeah,
why Paul was talking about you're not able to run your race effectively. Well, no, you can't run your race effectively if you're carrying huge weights. Um, yeah,
yeah. So the lack of forgiveness really hurts us
yeah,
more than it hurts the person who harmed us or who injured us.
yeah. It's a
It hurts us.
self-inflicting weapon. We
Yeah,
inflict ourselves with pain. Yeah,
yeah. So
wild.
it's very unburdening to be able to forgive.
It is. It is. As hard as it may seem. And sometimes it's just
Yeah,
saying the words, right? You just have to say the words until your mindset and your heart catch up to the words. So
yeah.
if
And
that's where you
sometimes these
are,
things, yeah,
all you have to say is I forgive them, and then just ask the Lord to give you the grace to let your mind and your heart catch up with the words that you're declaring over your life.
yeah. And sometimes it takes time, but it's certainly worth the effort. And ultimately, it's all God's grace. We can't
Yeah,
do anything in our own strength,
we
but by
can't.
His grace, we can forgive and we can heal for sure. And that's such a powerful, powerful thing to keep in mind and to know every day.
Yeah, it
You
is.
know,
All right, Chris. Well,
speaking
shall
of
shall we get into it? Sorry.
Oh my gosh, Danielle, so much has happened in the legislature. I mean, on issues and on bills that are so important to people.
Yeah.
And
Do you
for
want me
the
to get us?
most part,
Oh, you go ahead. Sorry.
no, for the most part, the Republicans did what they were supposed to do, but there
All
were some
right.
hiccups along the way, and it's important to point those out as well as the good things.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to do. We're here to make sure that our listeners and citizens of Louisiana know what's going on in the legislature, particularly in these committees on bills that matter to them. So
Yeah.
that's what we're here to do today, and as we move forward.
Yeah, exactly. We're here to give a faithful accounting, and if others saw it a different way, we also welcome their input. So why don't we get
Absolutely.
started? You can see I'm clinging on to my coffee right now. It's a early, early
You're
morning.
not gonna you're not gonna let that go, I
Uh-uh.
know.
No, not letting it go. All right.
Not
Well,
this morning. You don't have enough of it there to lose what you have.
no, exactly. Chris, why don't we start with what happened in the Senate Commerce Committee? So, Senate Bill 46, Senator Facey's bill on chemtrails, or if the more PC way to say it is geoengineering and weather modification, even though some people still call you crazy for saying that. He brought that bill yesterday, I believe, um, to to the committee, and you said that it passed with no opposition. You want to talk
Yeah,
about what the bill is doing and what it's not doing, and also any amendments that might have happened.
sure. This bill was in the Environmental Quality Committee in the Senate. Eddie Lambert is the chair of that committee. And it prohibits the intentional release or dispersion of any chemicals into the environment of the state of Louisiana. There's no question that that is going on. Christy Leger has done a lot to document that in Louisiana. And it's going on not only here, but in other places, and other states have already banned it. Well, yesterday, Senator Vasey's bill passed out of Senate Environmental Quality in a unanimous vote, no opposition. Now, there was one amendment. The bill, the prohibition will not apply to seeds, fertilizers, or pesticides or fire retardants that are under 1,000 feet above ground level. But anything above that, the whole prohibition applies.
Right.
So the bill is 99% intact and was not opposed by any Republicans and passed out with no opposition. So we're very, very happy about that, getting rid of this chemtrail poison in our skies
Yeah.
in Louisiana. So
I
Facey
have
did
to.
a great job.
Wonderful. I'm glad he did a great job, and I'm a little surprised that it passed with no opposition, but I guess voting against it, because we're so used to those old arguments of it's not happening. Why would you put a bill forward for something that we don't even, that could potentially happen in the future? So the deniers did not show up to that committee hearing?
No, no, not in force, and it's truly something this is something that so many voters in Louisiana are increasingly concerned about,
Yeah.
and I think Republicans understand that people are awake now, not only on this issue, but on a lot of other issues that are important. So, onward with Senate Bill 46 onto the
Yeah.
Senate floor.
Look, I am in the camp of people who does wish that this would apply to pesticides because first of all, I'm not really convinced that the pesticides down here work on the bayou. I am convinced that those pesticides actually make the mosquitoes more angry and they cause them to multiply and get stronger. I literally, I know people think that that's nuts, and I am saying that a little bit tongue in cheek. But if you try and walk in the yard after 5:30, you come on, it's just not
It's
possible.
pretty bad, huh?
It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
Yeah.
horrible. Now, Chris,
But this is a strong shot across the bow for
yeah,
sure.
it is. It absolutely is. And you said that Kim Coates's bill in the House is not yet scheduled to be heard in House Natural Resources, so it'll be scheduled sometime in the next couple weeks,
Yeah.
ostensibly.
And that's
And
House Bill 608, Danielle, and that
okay,
actually is probably a stronger bill than Facey's simply because it provides for real penalties for
Great.
violating the law, significant penalties. And there's not a penalty provision in Facey's bill, but there is in hers. So
So we'd like
that's a
hers to
good
get
thing.
going. We need hers to
Oh,
get
yeah.
moving then. Yeah,
Sooner the
perfect.
better.
Okay, and Facey's bill looks like it's scheduled for Senate floor debate as early as Monday. So
Correct.
we'll be following that and keeping you posted. Okay, next up, we'll talk about what happened in House Natural Resources, House Bill 615 by Representative Brett Guyman. We just had him on the show on Tuesday talking about this bill. This is his one related to solar energy. And basically, it sets out that it would be regulate the industry in some way that's largely unregulated as of yet in Louisiana, and it would be a move to protect local homeowners and businesses. He said their property values going down with these monstrosities being developed next to them with no upkeep. So it'll put some requirements on the developers, I believe, and give more control to local business owners, local citizens, local homeowners. Right, Chris?
Exactly. Real parameters associated with this solar generation development, and importantly, allows local jurisdictions, local governments to establish laws and parameters that are even more strict than the ones imposed by state law. So it really is strong on local autonomy, which, as constitutional conservatives, Danielle, that's exactly what we believe in.
Yeah,
The government that governs closest to the people governs best. So I love the fact that there's a local autonomy element in this bill.
yeah. And you said there was no opposition to that bill. Just a couple technical amendments.
That's exactly right. A couple of language tweaks. Now, Guyman is the author of this bill, is the chairman of the House Natural Resources Committee, so that probably helped
Yeah,
in it having no opposition. But at any rate, this bill will move on to the Senate floor or
great.
onto the House floor.
Onto the onto the House floor. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, Senate Governmental Affairs Committee, SB 80 by Representative Greg Miller. This is the exit polling bill that would say that you have to be a bona fide journalist in order to do exit polling during an election. And in my view, the government should never, ever, ever be the arbiter of who is and who is not a journalist. That
Yeah.
that has gotten us into a whole heap of trouble at this point. Whenever we going into 2020, you could say that, oh, MSNBC and Fox News, those are the real journalists, and the people who are on the ground actually knowing what's going on and reporting what they see with their own eyes, they are not journalists. So, what happened with that bill, Chris?
This bill, unfortunately, passed out of the committee with no opposition. It's
Stunning.
very, very unfortunate. And this is one that is very important because Secretary of State Nancy Landry brought this bill and made some misrepresentations in her testimony regarding the basis for this bill. There was an incident up in Shreveport where there was a group that was simply trying to ask some questions in a very calm and peaceful way as people left the voting precinct. One of the precincts up there, they were not doing anything wrong, and they were not cited for doing anything wrong. But nonetheless, Nancy Landry doesn't like apparently activists, and she used the word when she was testifying on this bill in committee. But the bill basically says that only bona fide journalists or bona fide media organizations can conduct exit polling at within 600 feet of a polling place. And that is flagrantly illegal, flagrantly unconstitutional. There's absolutely no reason why citizens should not be able to do exactly what, quote, bona fide journalists do with regard to exit polling, as long as they're not violating the law and they're not disrupting anything. And that is important. I want to say Bert Calais, a good friend of ours, testified in opposition to this bill and did a very good job on it. But we are following this very closely. Caleb Klein-Peter is the chairman of the Senate Governmental Affairs Committee, and I'm very disappointed in the fact that there was not more opposition on that committee to this bill because it's discriminatory and it's unconstitutional. And we're going to do everything we can to defeat this. This is just the first step forward. It's still got to go to the Senate floor, still got to go to the House, and we are going to raise awareness about SB 80 and how bad it is.
Yeah. Well, Chris, this bill is one of my least favorites of the session, and I'll tell you why. In part because if people are being disruptive as they're conducting the exit polling, there are laws for disruptive behavior already. So why don't we put that back on the people who love to give us that same line? Why are you creating a bill for something that doesn't exist? Well, that does. I think that is the state, that is the case for um this circumstance that they're trying to further regulate. And I think you're exactly right. They're trying to silence citizens. So the only reason I could see that someone in Nancy Landry's position would be pushing for a bill like this is because they don't want the citizens who are beholden to no one, while the journalists are beholden to the conglomerates, which is the same thing as the deep state. The citizens to be able to find out that the button that someone pressed on their machine is not the outcome that was what should have happened, right? And so they don't want to be able to have any reporting on any discrepancies whatsoever. And I just want to remind our listeners that it was the Secretary of State, it was Kyle Ardoin in 2020 who came out. Well, we found this out later, but he was one of the main proponents of censorship around the 2020 election, around COVID, through CISA, right? Am I right about that, Chris?
100% correct. No
So,
question about it.
so anytime the Secretary of State wants to tell me what I can and can't say, I have a big problem with that. Very big.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No doubt about it. And I wanted to mention also, Danielle, that Nancy Landry did state in committee, and this is important to remember while she was testifying for this bill, that citizen journalists who regularly do exit polling or who do exit polling should still qualify in to do this work, to do this exit polling. So we're going to remember that citizen journalists. Everybody knows what a citizen journalist is. So she said her intention is not to preclude citizen journalists from being able to do exit polling, and so that's what we're going to hold her to on this. If we're not successful in killing this bill, which it should be killed.
But I have a big problem with the fact that it even needs to be qualified, Chris. I have a problem with the fact that you would even need to fill out a form with the Secretary of State's office to do exit polling in the first place, which is current law. I have a big problem with that. Why
Yeah,
should
I
we have
agree.
to? Why should we
Is
have to?
why
She
should we
she
have
does
to?
not get to tell us where we get to stand and what we get to say.
As long as you are doing it lawfully, not disrupting anything, every citizen should have the same right that any quote bona fide journalist has to do exit polling.
Yeah.
And that is why this is obnoxious. This bill is obnoxious. And I believe that there is a nefarious intent behind it, as you referenced a few minutes ago.
Yeah. Well, we will keep keen eyes on this. And I think, Chris, this may be one that we need to do a call to action on. I also think this is one where we may find ourselves on the same side as some people that we don't normally find ourselves on the same side as.
Absolutely. And did you mention, Danielle, that this will have Senate floor action, this bill on April 28th?
No,
There's
I
not going to be
didn't.
a
Yeah. Thanks
final
for saying
vote
that.
or anything, but it will be introduced in the Senate on April 28th.
Yeah.
And so we want to keep a very close eye on this.
Yeah, we will. We will, absolutely. Okay, next up is Senator Alan Sebaw's Senate Bill 109, and this one is a proposed constitutional amendment. It would just close the loophole. It would close a funding loophole that would prohibit foreign donations in our elections.
Yes. Right now, Danielle, federal law prohibits any foreign or non citizen donations to federal elections, but it doesn't cover state elections or state ballot initiatives. So what Senator Seabaw's constitutional amendment would do would be prohibit any foreign donations or non-citizen donations to state campaigns or state ballot initiatives. Very good constitutional amendment, and it's really designed to keep foreign money out of the election process. It's similar to Senator Miguez's constitutional amendment from a couple of years ago that keeps foreign or NGO money out of the coffers of election officials specifically. But this one prohibits donations of any sort to any campaign or candidate by any foreign entity. So it's a very good constitutional amendment, and we're going to be strongly supporting this.
Yes. And you said it passed with no objection.
No objection at all.
Great. And the House companion, Chris, I don't know if you mentioned this. Sorry, I was just reading in the chat here. We had a chat from Walter about House Bill 241, but so I don't know if you said this, but the House companion bill by Rep. Annie Spell also passed, and hers is House
Yes.
Bill 590.
Yes, hers is the statutory version of Senator Seabaw's constitutional amendment. He's going to codify it in the Constitution, assuming it passes on a statewide ballot, which hopefully it will.
Yeah. And Chris, let's take a moment for Walter's comment here. It says he says House Bill 241 is a waste of time. It's interesting that Section E allows the parish to create a monopoly for private ambulance companies.
Yeah,
I don't know if
it
you've dug
is.
into that one.
It is, and that is related to a bill that Representative Larry Bagley is bringing to allow EMS first line responders to receive the same state supplemental pay that the firemen receive and that law enforcement receive.
Okay.
There's no question why they shouldn't. And along those lines, there was an audit done of the current state supplemental pay system in Louisiana, Danielle, going to the firemen and the law enforcement officers. And many people who are not first responders, are never in harm's way, are receiving this $600 a month state supplemental pay. That has to stop. And the EMS responders, the legitimate first responders, need to start receiving that $600 a month state pay. There's no reason why they shouldn't. And so they need that, and they need to clean up the waste in that program.
$600 a month is not chump change.
It's not chump change, and these EMS responders fight hard for. I mean, they fight hard. They put themselves in harm's way, and
They help
really
so
they
many
save a
people.
lot of, and they save people's lives. There's no
Yeah.
question about it. So
Yeah.
it's unfortunate that probably because of all the waste and all the people who are receiving the money now who shouldn't, who are not first responders, the EMS people are not getting it. So we're going to be pushing Larry Bagley's bill very heavily and doing a call to action on that one as well. I can't think of the number of his bill right off the bat, but we're going to be doing a call to action on it.
Great.
And that's Walter Beach, by the way, who is a
Yeah.
great guy and a great supporter of LeCag.
Hi, Walter. Thanks for tuning in. All right. Let's move now to House Governmental Affairs Committee. Chris, our report on that. House Bill 200. This boggles the mind, Chris. House Bill 200 by Representative Dixon McMakin, who I like a good deal. He wants to automatically appoint people to the RPEC, the Republican Parish Executive Committee in East Baton Rouge Parish. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and call this what it is, and it's a power grab. Tell me what happened with that, and tell me that this is something that's not going to move forward.
Yeah,
Please.
I told Dixon, and I put forward that this is going to be the functional equivalent of a terrible movie that an otherwise pretty good actor did that he hopes everybody will forget. And I have a feeling that that's what this is. HB 200 would have basically entirely reconfigured the local Republican Parish Executive Committee in East Baton Rouge Parish
Which is not
by
even the purview of the legislature.
which is not. It's a private organization that's government has no authority to regulate the electoral process within a local RPEC. It's a private organization. This bill would have allowed all statewide Republican officials who are registered to vote in East Baton Rouge Parish, and every state rep and senator from East Baton Rouge Parish to be appointed automatically to the local RPEC.
So
The
insane.
RPEC is a grassroots executive committee close to the pulse of the people, and everybody who's on the RPEC runs for the office and has to be elected. Well, this would have created, I think, 9 new appointed Republican members of the RPAC. And let me tell you, this is hugely unpopular. A lot of people testified against this bill. But despite that, many Republicans voted for this, despite the fact that it's illegal and despite the fact that it would invite undue influence into a local RPAC by way of appointment, not by way of election. Still, 7-7, it was a tie. And in committee, in a 7-7 vote, if it's a tie, it loses. It's done. You have to win. So a tie loses. But nonetheless, a number of Republicans voted for this, including the chairman of the House Governmental Affairs Committee, Bell Boyer.
Come on, guys.
Yeah, Representative Wright, Representative Peggy Thomas, Representative Mike Baham, who was an activist in his own right before he became a state representative. He voted for it. Of course, McMakin voted for it. Representative Farnham and Representative Weibel all voted for this. If we hadn't had 5 Democrats voting against this, smart enough to see what this does, this bill would have passed out of committee. I do want to give credit to Representative Schamerhorn, Representative Beth Billings, and Representative Gadberry, all Republicans, for voting against this bill. And the Democrats, Representative Boyd, Representative Carter, Representative Lyons, Representative Marcel, who spoke very strongly against this, and Representative Newell, all voted against this legislation, which failed because of their votes. So yeah, this was a bad bill, Danielle. And I told Dixon that, and he went forward either way. And hopefully this will never be brought back again. Again, you do not have a right. The government and the courts have ruled on this to control the electoral process of a private organization, in this case, the local Republican RPEC in Baton Rouge.
Yeah. And this is one of those instances where there's nothing prohibiting Dixon or anybody else that wants to run for the RPEC and simultaneously run for the legislature, because it's a political party, right? So it's not like he's holding 2 government jobs. So I do wonder, and I'll be keeping this in the back of my mind whenever 2027 rolls around. I wonder if I'll see Dixon putting his hat in the race for the East Baton Rouge Parish RPAC.
Yeah, and that's what we said. If you want to be on the East Baton Rouge Parish RPEC, run for the office and win the office is by vote of the people. And that's what Representative Phelps, a Democrat, pointed out yesterday. Just run for the office, run for the office if you want to be a member of the East Baton Rouge Parish RPAC.
We continue to be surprised by our allies. All right.
Yeah.
Next up, Chris, is, let's see, House Bill 206 by Representative Mike Mellorin. And this would be a law, this not too distant from the one we just talked about, a law that attempts to legalize the breaking of the law with regard to elections. This is completely bizarre, but you can get into the specifics.
Terrible piece of legislation, which basically says that if a state or local election official in Louisiana wants to enter into a consent agreement or a legal agreement regarding elections or election procedure, that violates state law, that conflicts with current Louisiana law, the Louisiana Election Code, in order to be able to do it, it simply has to be ratified by the legislature through a concurrent resolution, which means that it avoids a potential governor's veto. It avoids court scrutiny. That's what a resolution does. So basically, they are saying you can break the law if you want to, and then come to us. And if we ratify it by a majority vote in both houses, not a bill that creates new law allowing you to do it, just a resolution that doesn't require governor's review or signature and avoids any kind of court scrutiny, then you can do it. This is really really bad, because it really strikes at the constitutionally prescribed way that we're supposed to make law in Louisiana. You can't ratify the breaking of law through a concurrent resolution. You've got to change the law to do that in the constitutionally prescribed way. Yet, this passed through the committee without any opposition yesterday. The House Governmental Affairs Committee, with no
Unbelievable.
scrutiny and no opposition.
Chris,
And so, yeah, this
what
is this is
did
something we
did
gotta.
Secretary Landry testify in favor of this one?
Uh, no, but Mellerin did say that it was one of her part of her package of legislation.
So,
So yeah,
come
he
on.
did say it was part of her package.
Come
So
on.
the bottom line is, Wright, uh, Boyer, Thomas, Bayham, McMakin, Farnham, Weibel, Shammerhorn, Billings, and Gadberry. They all nobody opposed to this, and I think that maybe they didn't fully understand what is going on here fully. But if this were challenged legally, there's no question that this would be declared illegal, and we're going to make that point clear moving forward, when this gets to the floor, and then if it gets over to the Senate for sure. This bill has a long way to go yet before getting to the governor's desk.
Yeah, it sounds like you have some education to do, Chris.
Oh yeah, and we will indeed do it.
All right. Well, next up is House Bill 216 by Representative Jackson. And this one is about live proceedings, recording and broadcasting live public meetings.
Yeah, this is
Pretty
this is
straightforward.
very straightforward, but it's a good bill
Yeah,
because it requires the ethics board, in any of their public meetings, to broadcast those meetings live, for people to see in real time. If the ethics board has the authority to regulate the activity of other people, then there should be transparency in their processes as well.
beautiful.
And if you recall, Representative Jackson, who brought this bill, has had significant problems with the ethics board and has complained, as have a lot of other people, about the manner in which the ethics board handles its business and some of the things that they've done. So, all of that motivated this legislation to make their processes more transparent. This was a good bill that passed without opposition, and we're going to be pushing this all the way to the finish line. Very happy about this bill.
Yeah, it's pretty sad that you would have to force the ethics board to be ethical in their handling of ethics
Yeah.
complaints.
Yeah, something of there's a little bit of irony there, Danielle, isn't there?
Yeah, and it also makes you question who's on that board and why.
True.
All right, House Bill 603, another one by Representative Dixon McMakin, another one that stinks to high heaven as far as I'm concerned. This would be a bill that gives unchecked authority to the governor for powerful board appointments.
Yeah, right now, the governor does appoint the members of about 31 major regulatory boards in Louisiana: the dentistry board, the medical board, and all kinds of others, the accounting boards. The governor appoints all those members, but now he has to choose from among a list of names, nominees provided to him by the trade associations that are associated with those groups. And this bill eliminates that mandatory requirement and allows the governor now, if this passes all the way through, to appoint whoever he wants to those boards. And while I understand the position of Representative Macon, who said you don't want to have members of these trade associations who are active in the market, out making money, out pushing their industries, uh, choosing the people who regulate them, choosing the boards that regulate them. However, there's got to be a better way to do these appointments rather than putting more power in the hands of the governor. I mean, this gives him plenary authority to appoint whoever he wants with no restrictions to these all of these very powerful, important boards. Now, it will require Senate confirmation, but very often those confirmations are simple rubber stamps of
Yeah.
whatever the governor says. So it's really not much of a backstop very often, the Senate ratification process.
Yeah, I'd like to see some kind of amendment on this. I don't know what exactly, but it's kind of six of one, half dozen of the other right now because either the boards, either the associations choose someone to regulate them who is making a lot of money and who's powerful in the industry and can provide kickbacks that way, or the governor does it. And so the governor appoints the people who have given the most to his campaign or her campaign. Whenever the governor may change it, it'll still be the same story, right? So at the end of the day, this is about power and influence, regardless of who sets the terms for the appointment. And maybe there needs to be a second look at how that can be managed in a way that best reflects the needs of the people, rather than best suits the industry or best suits the governor.
Exactly. Very, very well said. And again, Representative Wright, Boyer, Thomas, Baham, McMakin, Farnham, Weibel, Schermerhorn, Billings, and Gadberry, all Republicans on House Governmental Affairs, no opposition to this legislation, no opposition to placing this kind of power, unchecked power, in the hands of the governor. And that's disappointing. But we're going to continue to work on this and hopefully get this amended before the finish line,
Yeah.
or even get it voted down
Yeah,
potentially in the
exactly.
House. Yeah.
Yeah. There were two other bills that would be massive power grabs for the governor if they were passed, that we wanted to bring up as well, Chris. One is House Bill 364 by Representative Daryl Desatel, and this is related to the makeup of the Public Service Commission.
Yeah, and again, along the lines of increasing Governor Landry's power, this is a constitutional amendment. It will go to the people, but it basically expands the Public Service Commission from 5 members to 7 members. And Danielle, take a guess about who would have unfettered authority
Hmm.
to appoint the additional 2 members to the Public Service Commission.
Who
One
would that
guess.
be? I guess probably the governor.
The governor, yes. So the additional 2 members would be appointed by the governor and not elected as the other 5 members
Go
are.
figure.
Again, we think it's a very bad idea to put more power in the hands of an already very powerful governor. I mean, under our current political system, as you and I have talked about before, Danielle, the governor already has disproportionate power in the
Yeah.
state of Louisiana in every respect. And we do not need to be giving him more power. And HB 364, this constitutional amendment, will do just that. If it's voted by 2/3 of both houses, then it'll go to the people in a statewide vote. And I can tell you right now that we are going to be strongly opposed to this.
Yeah. Well, this would give the governor power over the power.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Or the
no
Public
question
Service
about it.
Commission, right? They
Yeah,
manage our energy,
that's right.
our energy production. The other interesting thing about this, Chris, is, I bet those public service commissioners make a pretty decent salary. And if we're trying to LA Doge right now, why would we be adding two big salaries that are probably unneeded to the dole?
That very, very great point. We're supposed to be tightening our belts fiscally in Louisiana, yet and reducing bureaucracy,
Yeah.
yet we're expanding the Public Service Commission by two members appointed by the governor. So yeah, this is really bad, and I don't think that there's going to be an appetite if this gets to a statewide ballot for this on the part of Louisiana voters. I really don't think so.
No, no, not after what we've seen so far.
No,
I don't see a compelling reason for this. Have you heard any compelling reasons for this? What's the argument in favor?
I've not heard any compelling reason for it.
Shocking. All right. Well, the other bill that we wanted to raise that's in the similar vein is one that is really astounding to me. It's Senate Bill 214 being brought by Senator Royce Duplessis. He was the one who wanted to legalize homosexual prostitution last year, wasn't he?
Yes, he was,
Okay.
and fortunately, Senator Jay Morris and others in committee saw through that and killed that. And that might have been the second time that he brought that bill. I'm not sure, but yes, this is the same Royce Duplessis.
Okay.
And this
Just double
bill, yeah,
checking.
just yes, it's the same one. And this bill, Danielle, would make the Louisiana Insurance Commissioner an appointed position instead of elected, appointed by the governor.
Hmm.
I mean, what are we doing? I mean, all three of these bills that we just talked about significantly increase the power of the executive, the power of the governor in Louisiana
Yeah.
at a time when we should be doing just the opposite. And so SB 214 is a very bad bill. I did have a chance to speak to the chairman of the insurance committee, which is where this bill will be heard when it goes, Kirk Talbot, who said that he is not in favor of the legislation. So hopefully that stands true, and hopefully this will be defeated in the Senate Insurance Committee very soon. But
Well,
we
it's
thought we
time
would.
to use that power. And I mean, some chairs use their power to just kill bills before, never let them see the light of day, which would be a good fate for this one. Although some of them are big believers that everything deserves a debate, and so maybe he'll bring it in that spirit. But we'll see if it's there. I know you'll be testifying against it.
I'll be right there, be testifying on that one, and it's just good to know that the chairman of the committee
Yeah,
has real concerns about this bill,
that's
as do I and many others.
Yeah, that's encouraging. All right, just a couple more. Next, Senate Education, Senate Bill 117 by Senator Blake Miguez. This is his bill that would get ultra processed food out of the schools.
Yes, and it passed without any objections in committee, Senate Education,
Chris, could
and
you
it,
get closer to your mic? Your sound changed. I don't know if you got unplugged or something. Oh,
how
well, it
about
would help if you
now?
put yeah, it'd help if you put the mic in the right direction.
Oh,
There you go.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Much
Yes,
better.
it does help. It does help. Thank you. Wow, how that helps. Anyway, so SB 117 passed out of Senate Education, and you're exactly right. It would remove all the ultra processed, horrible food from the diets of our school children. Rick Edmonds is the chairman of that committee, and there was no opposition to the legislation. It was amended in committee to exclude from the prohibition concession stands and vending machines. And so, you know, that, but the food that they'll be eating for lunch in the cafeteria and that sort of thing will not have all these chemicals and additives and processed garbage in it. But they still will have the vending machines and the concession stands at sporting events and that sort of thing, which they'll have it all in there. But this is still a good bill as far as it goes.
Yeah, it's putting us in sync with the federal moves on this front. I think the FDA just banned this week petroleum-based dyes in foods, and it is moving to do more to get terrible cancer-causing, you know, n- neuropathic, I don't know, things that cause your brain to not work correctly
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
out of the food supply. Apparently someone is related to someone who works for Frito-Lay or Pepsi or or the Coke company. It's probably a little bit harder to regulate the vending machines, to be honest, but they
Yeah,
try and regulate plenty, so I don't know why they would stop short of that.
that's true. I also wanted to mention, Danielle, Connie Sampignaro sent me something this morning along these lines. This is a House resolution by Representative Eccles that would recommends and urges the United States Congress to support funding for the ability to focus on foods and consumables that remove all the ultra processed garbage from it, from in K-12 all the way K-12 schools in Louisiana. So it's just a resolution that urges Congress to help us to do this,
Oh, great.
uh, to provide funding for it, and that's House Resolution number 4, Representative Eccles.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because we all know that healthy food costs more than unhealthy food.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Senate Health and Welfare, Senate Bill 2 by Senator Facey. And this is the one, his bill to get fluoride out of Louisiana public water systems. Beautiful.
Amen. Amen. Thank God for Senator Mike Facey, right?
Yeah.
He's done such a good job on these issues. It passed out of Senate Health and Welfare yesterday. No more fluoride in our water beginning January 1st of 2026. There was an amendment to the bill in committee yesterday that will allow um, local citizens or local districts or parishes, if they can get 15% of registered voters to sign a petition, that would trigger a vote parish wide uh, in order to put the fluoride back in the water if they get a majority vote parish wide. That is not going to happen. I guarantee it. But that was the only compromise that Senator Facey had to make yesterday to get this bill through the committee. And, it's just not much of a concern. As you said pre show, we really don't see, a big push in local parishes once this fluoride is removed from the water to get it back in there.
Yeah. The only people who care about that are the dentists, and that's because they have been trained by what I would describe as Rockefeller medicine, petroleum-based medicine, and they believe that chemicals are the answer to everything. That's why we
Interestingly,
have
Danielle,
pharmaceuticals.
that's why we have pharmaceuticals. Interestingly, Danielle, there was a dentist who testified on this yesterday who said just that, 35% of kids in Louisiana rely on this fluoride for their oral hygiene because they don't have regular dental appointments and they don't brush their teeth. I don't know whether that's true or not. I'm pretty skeptical about that, but he testified to that in opposition to this bill.
Well, he clearly hasn't read the studies about what it does to your brain, your IQ. It's come on. Yeah.
Your physical body, no question about that.
Yeah. All right. Well, a big thanks to Senator Facey. Keep up the good work. And we'll be following this bill and encouraging it to continue to pass, although it seems like um, there's not been a ton of opposition to it yet. So I hope we see that continue.
And I want to give a shout out to Senator McMath,
Yeah.
who's the chairman of the Health and Welfare Committee, who really guided this bill very effectively in the committee, asked a lot of very clarifying questions, clarified some important issues, and added an amendment to the bill that beginning January 1, 2029, chlorine gas will no longer be able to be used to treat public water systems in Louisiana, chlorine gas.
Beautiful.
And so, yeah, so Representative McMath did a very good job with that amendment and generally steering this through committee, the chairman.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, big thanks to Senator McMath on that one, and he's bringing some good legislation as well. He has a bill that I guess we haven't heard yet, but it's his. Maybe actually we might have heard it the first week, Chris. His SB 14, the one kind of similar to Senator Miguez's one with ultra processed foods, kind of outlining what
Yes,
dyes have to be
exactly.
banned. I think did that pass last week? I'm sorry.
Yes, it
This is
did.
a, pop quiz.
It certainly did pass last week.
Great. Okay, well, the next one, and I think this may be the last one on our list for today, SB 19, also Senator Facey. This is his bill that would allow for ivermectin to be over the counter without a prescription.
Yes, same committee, Senate Health and Welfare, and it passed. And so it will allow a pharmacist to dispense ivermectin without a doctor's prescription under a standing order from the Louisiana Department of Health. And I want to give a shout out here to Dr. Ralph Abraham, who testified on this bill right next to Senator Facey yesterday, and really, really did a good job explaining the benefits of ivermectin and how important it is that this bill pass. Without having to have a doctor's prescription for it. Ivermectin, Danielle, I don't know if you know this, but I think it was back in 2015, won the Nobel, maybe it was 2011, won the Nobel Prize
Yeah,
because of its effectiveness in treating all manner of ailments, cancer, uh, you know, parasites in your system. It's just good for overall health. Can you imagine if ivermectin had not been suppressed during COVID? How many people may still be alive now? It's
yeah,
really sad to think about that. Uh,
yeah.
but but this bill is really, really important to allow ivermectin to be readily accessible to people without having to go to a doctor to get it.
Yeah, and it looks like, it passed 6-3, and all the Republicans voted yes, and the Democrats were still calling it horse paste?
Yes, they were, and questioning, and one of the Democrats was questioning why, if this is not, FDA approved for treatment of COVID, then why would we be stepping ahead of the FDA or the CDC? And we're thinking, man, I don't know. I mean, has the CDC or the FDA not made it clear to everybody in this country that, that they have an agenda and that they're biased? And that you can't always trust what they say and what they approve.
Well, it is approved by the FDA for a number of other use cases, and I don't think Senator Facey's bill is specifically recommending people to use it for COVID. So people can use it for what they will. Just like you can go to the pharmacy and get Sudafed, you have to provide your driver's license, but you can get Sudafed, and I bet you could make the decision in your own house if you had if you needed it for allergies or if you needed it for a pick me up because you were sluggish that day. It would be up to you why you used it. Is that right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And and Dr. Abrahams pointed out yesterday that doctors prescribe medication for off-label use every day. They
Yeah.
do it all the time, and this should be no different.
Yeah.
And so this is very bill. And by the way, the Republican members who voted not only for this but also for Senator Facey's uh, fluoride bill were Presley, Cloud, Hinskins, Owen, and McMath. And that's, the Senate committees are smaller, but all the
Yeah.
Republicans voted for it. So hats off to the Republicans on both SB 2 and SB 19, particularly to McMath on both of these bills for steering these through the committee.
Yeah. Hats off. All right. Well, that rounds out what kind of our review of what's happened so far this week. But coming up tomorrow, House Bill 34, which is Representative Brian Glorioso's collateral source bill, is scheduled for floor debate. I guess it could be as early as tomorrow. These things often get shuffled around, but it's scheduled as of now for debate tomorrow. So we'll
That's
be
right.
watching that pretty closely. And a reminder that the majority of the carbon capture and sequestration bills will be heard in House Natural Resources and Environment starting at 9 a.m. on Tuesday. Chris, I know you will be front and center for that.
No question about it. Standing room only. We've made our position very, very clear on this carbon capture sequestration racket. And the people, I sense, are rising up against this racket. And I have a feeling it's going to be a madhouse at the Capitol on the 29th. And Representative Guyman has said that if he has to stay there till 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning, everybody who wants to speak will have an opportunity to speak. I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of people speaking in opposition to this.
Yeah. We pack your energy bars.
Oh, pack your energy bars. And, most of the legislation, Danielle, that's coming, the vast majority of it on CCS this session is opposed to CCS, designed to eliminate or to restrict it. So the people are awake now, and
Yeah.
these representatives have heard from their people.
Yeah. Well, it helps to have people like President Trump and others around him calling CCS what it is, which is a green new scam, on the back of taxpayers, not something that's actually providing any utility to anyone other than the people who collect the checks from the government to do the racket.
Yes, it's just such a disgrace,
Yeah.
the whole process, and to add insult to injury, it's being subsidized with our money.
Yeah.
Representative Guyman said that if on our show that if this CCS racket relied on private money to be self-sustaining and profitable, it would fold up and die within about 3 hours because it would not be intrinsically profitable. So,
Yeah.
but for the taxpayers and our money, this thing wouldn't be going anywhere. And I think that's something that also makes people very upset that our money is being spent on this.
Yeah, and I'll just flash up this comment from the chat here from John. He says, I'm pretty sure that the CDC has backpedaled on their guidance concerning ivermectin and COVID. They quietly admitted they were wrong. Yeah, that was quiet in the last administration for sure. I'm still looking forward to seeing them completely reverse their guidance and not just backpedal on it.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I think
And I
that's
appreciate
forthcoming.
absolutely. It's amazing how, when these government bureaucracies are proclaiming something that is consistent with their often or political agenda, they do it loudly where you can't avoid hearing it. And then when they have to retract, they do it very quietly,
Yeah.
where almost nobody knows.
Yeah, they learned that from journalists.
They learned that from journalists.
Bona
Back
fide
page.
journalists, Chris,
Oh,
bona
bona
fide.
fide journalists.
Yeah,
Only the bona fide journalists.
yeah,
Yeah.
not
So
people like us.
right. So I appreciate John's comment on that.
Yeah. A couple things. Tuesday, we will be back on at 8 a.m. live with what happened since today, between today and then. And we will be attempting to get on most days, Tuesdays and Thursdays during session at 8 a.m. So Chris has time to get to the Capitol. And then maybe we'll go back to 10 a.m. We'll see how it goes. So y'all just stay tuned, but welcome you to join us live. And we will also on Tuesday be taking a look ahead at what will happen the rest of the week. And just a reminder, if you missed it, I started a new show on Tuesdays at 2:30 p.m. Central Time called For the Love of Freedom, and doing long form interviews with people about what has brought them freedom in their personal lives. So kind of a little bit different direction, but very similar thematically, kind of digging into the stories behind the mission.
Great show. I listened to the first one and really, really enjoyed it. I can't wait. I can't
Thank
wait
you,
for
Chris.
episode 2, Danielle.
Yeah, I gotta get myself together. Gotta button up my little buttons and put my ducks in a row and all those, all those all those things.
Yeah.
Um,
Before we go, Danielle, I want
mhm,
to just thank our listeners to the State of
yeah,
Freedom for everything that they do for us, for subscribing and sharing. We are the voice of the citizens in Louisiana, uncompromisingly. The Constitution and the citizens. No special interests, no agenda other than doing what is in the best interest of our citizens. So I just want to encourage all of our listeners to continue to subscribe and share with family and friends the State of
yeah,
Freedom, because we are becoming a voice that's heard all over the state of Louisiana. And we're very humbled and very thankful to be that voice.
yeah, absolutely. Well said, Chris. And we would also encourage everyone who has not signed up yet for action alerts at lacag.org to do that, lacag.org. Go to the Action Center there. sign up for alerts, go ahead and take action on anything that's there, that you're passionate about, that makes sense to you, because this is how we make our voices heard, and this is how we make sure that legislators and the executives of our state understand where the people are coming from. Because if we don't speak up, they will do whatever they want.
Absolutely. And a number of these bills, Danielle, that we talked about today and others will have calls to action up at lacag.org Action Center very soon. So please go do that. It's very user friendly. It takes about 2 or 3 minutes. You can customize your own email if you want. But legislators pay attention to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of communications by
Yeah.
citizens expressing how they feel. So it's really important to do these calls to action.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, thank you, Chris, for keeping on top of this. I know that you will stay on top of it. I am trying to get on top of it, but it's a lot.
Well, you're on top of a lot of things, Danielle, and I'm just hanging on to your coattails over here. So I appreciate you and being partners with you on this great endeavor that we are on. And I
It's a
look
lot of
forward to
fun.
seeing you again soon for another episode of the State of Freedom.
Sounds good. See you Tuesday, Chris.